Welcome everyone to what is a very special moment for UTS. I would especially like this morning to acknowledge His Excellency General Sir Peter Cosgrove and Lady Lynn Cosgrove. Welcome to UTS. The Honourable Christopher Pyne, Minister for Education and Training, Dr. Chau Chak Wing, Mr. Frank Gehry, many colleagues and friends and members of the media. Now, hundreds of years ago, the land beneath our feet was a creek bed and home to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And before we begin today, on behalf of all of us present this morning, I would like to acknowledge and pay our respect to the traditional owners of the land on which we are gathered this morning. It is upon their ancestral lands that this magnificent building now stands. I would also pay our respect to the elders, both past and present, acknowledging them as the traditional custodians of knowledge for this place. Now, very briefly, I want to take a couple of minutes to explain to everyone here today why this day and this building are so important to UTS. Now, I'm sure we'll all agree the building is a masterpiece of design and of engineering, but it is much more than that. This building is a symbol of everything that UTS stands for. It epitomises our vision to be a world-leading university of technology, which is founded on the intersection of creativity and innovation. Now, over the last 10 years, we have been focused on achieving that strategic vision, and we've made great strides in achieving that goal. Today, UTS is a university offering opportunities for learning and discovery in a vibrant environment where business, where industry and the community have open access to new and exciting world-changing ideas. Today, UTS is a powerhouse generating future thought leaders, future innovators, shapeshifters and community leaders. Now, part of this strategic plan has been to unite our teaching and research activities on one central city campus here in the city of Sydney. And we will have achieved this by the end of this year, when all staff and students will be located right here in the city of Sydney at the centre of its creative hub. The Dr. Chau Chak Wing Building is the centrepiece of this strategic plan. It is the flagship for UTS. It is the very model of creativity and innovation. The building itself was a process of research and of innovation, and its new learning spaces will enable UTS to leverage its unique learning model. It is a building through which UTS can connect with the community, with the city, and make partnerships with business. It was almost serendipity that brought Frank Gehry to UTS, but there was an instant meeting of the minds. Frank got us. He understood our vision. He said he would design a building that would capture our vision. And I think you will all agree he has done that. And what is so exciting for us over the last 5 years, as this building came to life, so did the university. We are well on our way to achieving our vision. We are now ranked amongst the top 400 universities in the world for academic excellence, the top 50 universities for universities under 50 years of age. And remember, we are 3 years shy of 30 years old. And we are ranked amongst the top 30 most international universities in the world. UTS is bold, UTS is creative, and UTS is innovative. And that is exactly why this building is so important to UTS. It is now my honour and my privilege to have the Governor-General and Lady Cosgrove with us today, and I would like to invite Sir Peter to deliver his address. Thank you.
I'd like to join with the Chancellor in acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation on whose ancestral land this university stands, and I join her in my respects to Elders past and present. We've just had a wonderful experience walking around this wonderful new building, and for those of you who haven't yet had the chance, take the opportunity today, don't delay. It really is exciting. Visually eye-catching from anywhere in the city where you can see its walls. The walls invite you. The glass embraces you. You have a feeling of a great city, but a place of learning and peace if you're standing inside. Continuing my acknowledgements, the Minister for Education and Training, the Honourable Christopher Pyne, of course to Vicky Sarah, who as Chancellor of this great university, I think has been a wonderful leader in her time here, as she was of the gathering of Chancellors in Australia. I was recently a University Chancellor and Vicky was my muse. The UTS Vice-Chancellor, Professor Brungs, Professor Roy Green, Dr Chau Chak Wing and family, the wonderful philanthropist whose endowment has allowed this university building to reach fruition, to Mr Frank Gehry, whose marvellous efforts we salute today, staff, students, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here with Lynn today to officially open the new home of the University of Technology Sydney Business School, the Dr Chau Chak Wing Building, designed by Frank Gehry. What a magnificent building. It's bold, it's inspiring. Traditional notions of hallowed sandstone quadrangles, spires and large lecture halls as symbols of tertiary education have been reinvented, reinterpreted and reinvigorated by this building. But what better way to encourage and challenge young and inquiring minds than to provide them with a place of higher learning that itself symbolises creativity, excellence, original thought. It is the evolution of learning, a way of breathing new life into education and thus ensuring Australian business leaders of the future are inspired to also be researchers, innovators and entrepreneurs. It allows a seamless partnership with business, particularly small and medium enterprises, some of which are hosted on the premises, many of which are located nearby, all of which will be drawn like bees to the honeypot to this wonderful building. I have no doubt that in years to come this building will come to represent the goals and aspirations we currently have, those of us who are minding the shop at the moment, for all of our future generations. Every day hundreds of students, academics and industry partners will have the opportunity here to share ideas and challenge themselves in an environment imagined and planned by Frank Gehry and his team and the UTS leadership. And the result will be graduates with ideas that will inspire and transform, thus cementing Australia's place as a leading edge of higher learning, innovation and creativity. As we've heard this morning, one of the strengths of this project is that it's been a tremendous collaboration between so many committed partners. Firstly, I would like to pay special tribute and to offer my thanks on behalf of all of us for the extraordinary generosity of Australian Chinese business leader Dr Chau Chak Wing in donating $20 million towards the building's construction. I should remark that this is in addition to the $5 million Dr. Chow gave to establish a scholarship endowment to enable students from China and Australia to undertake programs of study in each other's countries for generations to come. Dr. Chow, your son studied architecture at UTS. I am certain he must be delighted that a Frank Gehry masterpiece has been named in your honour. But it was the least due for your significant investment in the future of UTS students and your marvellous contribution to building the China-Australia relationship. Sir, you recognise the importance of forging stronger people-to-people, university, business and ultimately country-to-country links between Australia and China. And your generosity will ensure that students will have the time of their lives as they learn, make new friends and experience a different culture. Dr. Chow, congratulations for nurturing the ambition of our students and investing in their future. Now, Mr. Frank Gehry, I've been fortunate to have a tour of the building this morning in your company, and I can tell you that it has no comparisons to the austere and rigid place of my first experience of higher learning, the Royal Military College, Duntroon. But I think the skill of a truly great architect is to create something practical that meets the intent and desire of the owner, and yet at the same time produces something of great originality and beauty that inspires and leaves those who visit with a sense of awe and wonder. We have this wonderful propensity in Australia to seek immediately to attach a tag. And I have to tell you, it's the most beautiful squash brown paper bag I have ever seen. Mr. Gehry, there's no doubt about your international acclaim. It is so well deserved, and I know this building is just the latest in a lifetime of architectural achievement for you. But it is very special to us, as it is the only one here in Australia, and I thank you for choosing Sydney as the location of one of your landmarks. I know you ensured it was instilled with uniquely Australian elements. It's wonderful to see Sydney's history represented in two distinct facades. One is, of course, the tremendous feature of the undulating brickwork, a reference to the dignified sandstone of Sydney's urban heritage, and the other of a glass wall that mirrors fragments of the building's contemporary city surrounds. Finally, the fact that you did choose this place for one of your buildings is a testament to the strength of UTS as an innovative and forward-thinking university. Now, investing in this project was a bold decision, and as a previous Chancellor, I know that each time a university takes a major infrastructure decision, it is bold. It needs the most careful thought and the most excellent planning. I congratulate the UTS team for your resolve. The results speak for themselves. We can now all look forward to the flow of ideas and innovation that will come from the study undertaken in the Dr. Chau Chak Wing Building. In closing, to all those here today involved in this project, architects, structural engineers, the brickies, interior designers, project managers, craftspeople, financial managers and all others, congratulations. For generations to come, people will flock to admire all you have achieved here together. Ingenuity, passion and skill which has delivered this place. It is now my great pleasure to officially declare the new home of the UTS Business School, the Dr. Chau Chak Wing Building, designed by Mr. Frank Gehry, officially open. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Peter. I'm so thrilled that you recognise the importance of investment in the future that this building stands for. It is future generations and their education and discovery and learning which will happen here. It's a major investment for the country here. So thank you very much, Sir Peter. This magnificent building is deservedly named after the Australian Chinese businessman and philanthropist, Dr. Chau Chak Wing, who, as you've heard this morning, donated $20 million to the project. And as you've also heard, Dr. Chau's contribution to education and Australia-Chinese relationships has not ended there. It is really unbounding. And particularly, I would like to mention the role that he has played in increasing educational opportunities for exchange of students between Australia and China. And we thank him particularly for establishing a $5 million scholarship program for the exchange of those students. But now I think it's time that I would like to invite Dr. Chau Chak Wing to say a few words in this and his magnificent building. Please, Dr. Chow.
尊敬的澳大利亚总督彼得克科什克里副爵士及夫人
His Excellency Governor General, the Honourable Sir Peter Cosgrove and Lady Cosgrove.
尊敬的教育部克里斯托夫派因部长
The Honourable Minister Christopher Pine.
尊敬的各位媒体朋友们
Distinguished guests and media friends.
尊敬的各位来宾
Ladies and gentlemen.
我感到非常荣幸能参与澳大利亚教育这崭新的新篇章，并且学习到世界顶级设计师富兰克·该里斯设计的欧洲建筑的新地标。
It is a great honour to be associated with this bold new vision of education in Australia and with a new landmark designed by the world's greatest architect, Frank Gehry.
澳大利亚是一个致力于推进多元文化的国家，欢迎来自世界各地的学生。
Australia is a country that embraces diverse cultures and welcomes students from around the world.
它也致力于推动创新。
It is also a country that embraces innovation.
我们一起努力，可以为澳洲两国学生提供新的交流联系的机会，为两国培育新的人才。
Together, we have an opportunity to cultivate new talents for Australia and China, in which students can exchange new ideas and form new links.
我希望我建设的这栋大楼成为两国友好关系的见证。
I would also like to believe that my support for this building is symbolic of the strength of relationships between our two countries.
我选择与澳大利亚悉尼科技大学合作，因为它拥有完善的教育设施，充分致力于创新。
I've chosen to work with UTS in particular because it's a modern and world-class center of learning with the best facilities and a strong commitment to innovation.
毕业生以其世界先进的良好的教育而受到企业界的青睐。
This world-class education makes UTS graduates highly sought after by business.
到世界名校深造，接受最新最顶尖的国际教育，是很多年轻人的梦想。
It is a dream of many young people to attend a top university for the best education.
悉尼科技大学提供了独一无二的机会，帮助学生实现自己的梦想。
UTS is uniquely placed to help students realize their dream.
我希望这栋新的悉尼科技大学商学院大楼将激发澳大利亚以及世界各国学生百尺竿头，更进一步。
It is my hope that this new business school building will inspire Australian and international students to reach new heights.
也感谢各位朋友，感谢新闻界的各位朋友，在百忙中能够抽空出席今天这个发布会。
I would like to extend my gratitude to all the guests and media here today to make it to the opening of this building in your busy schedule.
祝大家身体健康，万事如意，谢谢。
I wish you a prosperous future. Thank you.
Thank you kindly for your words, Dr. Chau Chak Wing and Angel. Good morning. I'm Attila Brungs. I'm the Vice-Chancellor here at UTS. Today is a really special day. It marks the culmination of many years of hard work, dedication and planning. This building is emblematic of UTS, innovative and creative. It's radical and will allow UTS to deliver radical, future-focused approaches to learning and ensure that UTS truly becomes a world-leading university of technology. I have no doubt that this building will become one of Sydney's, if not Australia's, architectural icons and a place of excellence in higher education and learning. Great architecture, as we were speaking last night, should stimulate debate, discussion, and this spectacular building has already done just that. And just as the Opera House put Australia on the map for excellence in the performing arts, the Dr. Chau Chak Wing Building will mark Australia's place as a global leader in innovative higher education. Education is key to Australia's prosperity. Universities drive innovation, productivity, our very quality of life and the standard of living for all Australians. Universities directly contribute over $2.3 billion to the GDP and graduates are worth about $188 billion to our economy annually. But quite simply, education has the power to transform lives and to deliver a better future for all Australians. And that is why UTS has invested carefully, deliberately, over 10 years at $1.2 billion in our campus master plan. An investment not just in UTS's future, but a critical investment in the future of learning, the future of our students, Australia's future. And as I said, the Dr. Chau Chak Wing Building is like UTS. It's bold and innovative, pushing the boundaries of design and construction. It is designed for education in the 21st century and demonstrates how UTS is reinventing traditional university learning. The facade, of course, is unique and extraordinary, but it is the internal spaces that have fascinated me right from the start and what makes this such an exciting place for learning. Gone are the massive lecture theatres where students are often expected to simply sit and listen. Instead, this building promotes collaboration. The real genius in the design was making these collaborations, interactions happen both spontaneously and deliberately. Learning spaces are blended with leading-edge technology to enable an active and engaged experience for students. There are spaces where students can take part in simulations, focus on communication skills, and tackle real-world industry-driven problems. It is the ideal space and environment for the exciting courses like the one we're proud to also launch today, our new entrepreneurship-focused one-year full-time MBA to commence later this year. This will enable participants to take ideas from concept all the way through to reality, contributing to the growth of Australia's knowledge economy. We are equipping our students with the skills that they need for the future, for the jobs of the future. Studies predict that about 45% of current jobs will no longer exist in the next 10 or 20 years. And we know that many of our current students today will have 20 jobs by the time they're 40, whereas my generation had about 5. We don't even know necessarily what all the jobs of the future are, but what UTS can give our students is an inspiring learning environment, enabling them to explore, to challenge, to converse, to give them skills and attributes to succeed in this dynamic and rapidly changing world, and most of all, the ability to give back to society and the community through their education. This is a building for its time. For a global, cosmopolitan Sydney, UTS has absolutely deliberately embedded itself in the fabric of this thriving city, in a hub surrounded by creative minds, tech startups, major corporations and cultural institutions. It has certainly been an amazing journey to get to this point, and I have no doubt we'll have many more achievements and landmarks to look forward to. This has been a mammoth project and a truly global collaboration, and I'd like to thank everybody involved. They can be very proud of what has been achieved and the lasting legacy and impact it will have for Australia's future. Again, thank you to you all. And finally, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the Honourable Christopher Pyne MP, Minister for Education and Training, Leader of the House, who is also officially representing the Honourable Tony Abbott MP, Prime Minister of Australia. We are very pleased he could take some time out of his busy schedule to say a few words for us today. Minister Pyne.
Thank you very much, Attila, to you, to the Governor-General, Sir Peter Cosgrove and Lady Cosgrove, Dr Chau Chak Wing, to Vicky Sarr, the Chancellor of the University, and Roy Green, the Dean of this school. The wonderful thing about this marvellous building is that it shouts out to the world that the University of Technology Sydney is in the race in higher education, that it is a real competitor, that it's not content to sit back and receive large government support, student support, do the research, have the lecture theatres, teach students, but it actually wants to be a world-leading change agent in higher education. That's what this building says to me. University of Technology Sydney could have built another building that had full of lecture theatres and laboratories or spaces for students, but it said no, we've reached that point of our development after almost 30 years where we're going to do something that is world-leading and says to the world, look at us over here, don't assume we are simply going to be another good university, we are going to be a great university. If I can use today to talk a little bit about the government's attitude to this sector as well, very briefly. The same attitude that UTS is bringing to this building and its educational vision is the reason why the government wants to reform higher education in Australia. And that's because we must have forward momentum in higher education. 5 years ago, there were no Chinese universities in the top 200 universities on the Shanghai Jiao Tong Index. Today there are 5. There are, of course, 6 Australian universities, but that competition is something that governments and Australians can't pretend is not happening. International education is our 3rd highest export industry in Australia, after iron ore and coal. But if you ask most Australians what our biggest exports were, they would not say international education. And yet it brings $15 billion of valuable resources into this country every year from international students. If we are to maintain Australia as a place a preferred destination for students, we must have the best university system that we possibly can. We must have some of the best universities in the world. It's not enough to have 41 very good universities. We must have the best university system, but we also must have some of the best universities in the world. And the University of Technology Sydney is positioning itself as one of those universities through investments like the one that the Governor-General has opened today. So because of that competition, because of shrinking resources, because of our desire to see this university system in the way that I've described, we are bringing about far-reaching reform to the higher education sector that will allow Vice-Chancellors for the first time to attach a real value to the services that they are providing to students. So that if UTS has the best entrepreneurship MBA in Australia, it will be able to attach a real value to that, rather than it costing exactly the same as any other MBA in Australia, regardless of whether the other MBAs have the same quality in that particular course. And that is what the market does in any system. It means that high quality gets rewarded and low quality is not preferred by the consumer, and the consumer puts their valuable dollars where they know they're going to get the best outcome. And that is why the government's philosophy is to bring about more deregulation and competition in the university sector, to drive innovation, to drive creativity, to respond to the consumer, in this case the students. And then we'll have high quality research, high quality teaching, and the best we possibly can get from our own population, so we can keep up and compete in the world in the way that Australia has always done and must do into the future. So in thanking Dr. Chow today for his extraordinary support, and thanking the UTS for making the leap in confidence and commitment to build this building, and Frank Gehry for designing a marvellous building, can I say that we in the Government of Australia are committed to supporting the university sector and making it the best system in the world. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you for joining us today on this very special occasion, and for reminding us all what an exceptionally good, world-class university system Australia has. And it's through occasions like today that we can celebrate Australian universities. And now it gives me great pleasure to invite Sir Peter back to the stage and ask you to officially open the building. And what you have to do is hit this. And just
How hard?
I forget. Just, we can do it together. Just do that. Yeah, and it should work. I'd like to, on behalf of all of us at UTS, Sir Peter, thank you very much for opening this marvellous building that we're so proud about. And thank you to Lady Cosgrove for coming, and thank you, Minister Christopher Pyne, for coming here today. It's exciting that you can share this wonderful day with us. And thank you all for joining us on this momentous occasion.
My question is for the Chancellor. So what kind of students can be the benefactor of the scholarship? And may I know your comments about the donation by Dr. Chow? Thank you very much.
Thank you. The scholarship program, which Dr. Chow has supported with $5 million, is for the exchange of students from Chinese to Australian universities and from Australian universities to Chinese universities. So it is an exchange between UTS and other Chinese universities for our students. And my comments on Dr. Chow's very generous donation towards this building is that we are extremely grateful. We appreciate his contribution, which has enabled us to finalise this magnificent building. Dr. Chow has made, I believe, a major investment in Australia-Chinese relations and in building Australia-Chinese educational facilities. This university is very grateful for his contribution.
Mr. Gehry, would you describe this building as your best one yet? Do you agree with the paper bag tag?
That's, you know, I have some children and I've never tried to differentiate. So.
Do you agree with the brown paper bag tag that some people have labelled it as?
I didn't hear that.
Some people have called it the paper bag building. Do you agree with that description?
I've been called a lot of things. That works. That's okay. Whatever works is fine.
What would you call it then? How would you describe it?
Well, most of the buildings get built are just boxes, right? And so the idea that you can humanize a building, you know, the 19th century buildings in Sydney are still the most accessible, their humanity about them. And the modern buildings tend to be cold and off-putting. So the idea of using brick was part of the community here. There is a brick culture. And the sense of movement, creating a sense of movement to replace decoration, is a primitive one, actually. It comes from the fold, which goes back to studies by Michelangelo and many artists over time, over the years. And we were able to accomplish it with normal bricklaying techniques. And the curved parts on the inside relate to the communal activities in the building, so that the more simpler box or square elements are where the offices are. And so it's a container, maybe it's a brown paper bag, but it is flexible on the inside. There's a lot of room for change and movement, which I think in the world today is essential to, there are a few normal things like this auditorium, but the oval classroom is something I've experienced before, that the bringing people together in a conference like that, eliminates kind of the hierarchy and invites people, and I've seen it work in an excellent way. The original oval table idea comes from Thomas Jefferson. If you go to University of Virginia, you go to his conference room and you'll see an oval table, and some years ago I experienced that, and it was this inspiration for pursuing that.
Can you tell me, how's technology enabled you to create designs that you wouldn't have been able to do in the past?
Well, I think 30 years ago or so, I was trying to emulate the world of movement we were in, cars, planes, everything moving. And I thought of using that as a replacement for feeling, to create a replacement decoration. And I couldn't build it. I tried by normal methods, and it was difficult and expensive. And I went to IBM at that time and asked them if they had any new software programs. They connected me with Dassault Systems. Dassault Systems in France build airplanes like the 777 paperless. And I embedded myself in their place until they gave me the stuff to try. And the first time I got it successful, I found success with it, is we used it in Bilbao. The structure, the steel structure in Bilbao is made up of many pieces of steel. Not many are the same, they're all different. And if you give that to a general contractor, you know, forget it, you're gonna, price goes up. We trained 6 subcontractors with our system. They went on our software, and the bids for six individual bidders came in 18% under budget with a 1% spread. So that gave you confidence that you could pick the one you wanted, that these were real bids. And then, in fact, they built it for that. When that happened, I had a drink and celebrated, because I knew this was the future, and From then on, I developed with my team add-ons and modifications to the Dassault CATIA to make it simpler for the construction industry. And we've trained Zaha Hadid to use it, and Softy and Nouvelle and many others, because it's my hope that the architect can become the master builder again and not be marginalized, because the industry has that tendency, because every time you bid a building, it always comes in over budget, and then the owner starts talking to the general contractor and the architect, sweetie pie, you've done a great job, and us big boys are going to tell you how to build it. I hate that, and I won't have it. And we're going to run the goddamn project and make sure it comes in on budget and it fits the needs of our client, and basta, that's it.
I've heard you say in an interview that you study the culture of the city you're creating for. What were your observations of Sydney and Sydney-siders, and how has that translated into this building?
Well, I was raised in Canada, some of you might know, Toronto, I grew up, and my first visit to Melbourne reminded me of Toronto 50 years ago. I haven't been back to Melbourne recently. I know it's gone beyond that, but it was a perception. So I felt comfortable within so-called British origins and system, and then the independence from that, and what goes with that. I know the Sydney Opera House saga and Mr. Utzon's problems, and that was also one of the reasons I pushed this technology. I don't know, there's a kind of a aesthetic here that I was trying to understand, a dignity, hopefully, that isn't in all of your new buildings. So I think mostly people around the world are building the same old stuff, and you've got some real icons here. You've got which you know, you've got a bridge, you've got Sydney Opera House, and a lot of good things going for you. And I tried to fit into that. So this building I wouldn't do somewhere else. You won't see me doing this.
I'm a journalism student here at UTS, and I was just wondering how you were hoping this building would inspire students here in their education.
Well, if you, let me tell you a story. I was at Harvard, asked to work on the expansion of the Harvard campus, and the president, they had just built a business school there that's built in the 19th century style by a contemporary architect. A friend of mine did it, and it's quite comfortable. Everybody loves it. Even I love it. And the president said to me, Frank, we're going to build a new campus. Everybody loves the business school. Why wouldn't we build this campus, new campus, in the style of that business school? And I said, sir, you are the president of Harvard. You are preparing people for the future, and if you want to tell them they have to live in the past, be my guest.
What do you think are the building's greatest architectural achievements, and how do you think it adds to the Sydney landscape?
Well, one of the greatest architectural achievements, it's got built on time and on budget. Which is, I think most people, if you asked them if they didn't know, you asked them if it was expensive or more expensive, they would say yes, just looking at it. And some people would say, it's an architectural tour de force by an architect's ego on the outside, has nothing to do with the inside. And some people would say that it's all about the architect. We did spend a lot of time with Roy Green and his faculty and Chancellor Sarah. And we talked about, we had the experience of doing one business school, and that they had seen, and the faculties compared notes. And the idea of creating an open system, and this one went much further than the one in the other one. The faculty at the other school created wrote a book about the process, the open process that we created to build these buildings as a model for business. And I think as an architect, artist, whatever I am, I also run a business, and I'm very clear about the need to be fast on your feet, open to change, and to have a building that's not fixed, that has the opportunity for moving walls, knocking things out easily, changing. We have a few fixed points that are kind of the oval room, the terraces, the opportunities for meetings and so on. And then the rest is pretty open-ended. So I guess this room is probably the most conventional part. We needed one anchor.
Firstly, were there aspects of the building that you couldn't achieve? Were there things that you just couldn't do even with the latest technology? And a very simple question, are you happy with it? What do you think of it now that it's done?
Oh boy. So, I'm Jewish and I feel guilty about everything. It takes me 2 years to come around. I see all the things I would change and want to change, and actually I wouldn't change, but but 5 years ago is when we conceived. So all of us change as we go, and I think I'm pleased with it, but I haven't seen it in an operation yet. I haven't seen the kids here. I haven't witnessed how it's being used, and I'm hoping to do that. I want to especially meet with the faculty today and talk about things that ideas I had, and how they might think about some of the spaces if they hadn't already. But certainly it's open-ended. It's hopefully gives them a spirit of invention, that nothing's fixed. And as soon as you think you know the right way to do something, somebody will come up with some way to take you off on another adventure. So you have to be open for ideas and thinking. And so I think this building can be manipulated over time, will be manipulated over time, and will change as it's being used. And people will invent ways to use it. And I think the tendency to build buildings that everything is fixed for a fixed program is an obsolete notion. And we see that all over the place now. When I started out, my office, the ceilings are open. I didn't cover them up with finished materials and stuff. And now that's become a virtue. Somehow we are asked by very corporate clients to do that for them, to leave it, we don't need all that fussy stuff. So I think there's a changing, constantly changing, and who knows where it's going. We're doing a building for Facebook, for Zuckerberg. It's totally a different paradigm, a different way to look at it.
as a construction management graduate of this very university, how did you find dealing with your head contractor, and was it not pleasing to see so many of your students running this particular site?
I'm glad you're a graduate of the school, and it was absolutely a joy. I'd have to say that, as you can imagine, the project, as we went into it with a level of trepidation which was soon overcome. Dealing with the teams that were involved, and in particular with Frank and his team, it's a humble environment, believe it or not. It's an environment that allows the university to speak its mind, to be listened to, and indeed the contractor to contribute to that. And as a broader team, come up with the product that you see today, the building that we sit in today. It has been, quite frankly, the epitomization of what I'd have to say, confidence without arrogance. Everybody was confident in this process. Nobody was arrogant in the process. And the combination of those things really allowed us to end up where we are today.
I know that Dr. Chow was instrumental in bringing you to this point and original recruitment in the project. What was it like working with him and your shared vision for this building?
Well, since I don't speak Chinese, it was not... it was done through interpreters, but his wishes and for excellence and for innovation was paramount. When we started the project, before Dr. Chow became part of it, the budget for the building, we were only able to do a lower level box, and we did some studies on it, and we were on the way to doing that. Because there's no campus, real campus, the university was hoping for something that was visible from all around, so that connect to the original UTS tower and that could be seen on the skyline. With the grant from Dr. Chow, we were able to explore that body language of the building, and it gave us the opportunity to do something. Without that, it would have been a much different building. So I think I'm eternally grateful to him, and he understood from the beginning what that all meant. He was complicit with his family. They saw the models, we discussed the options, and he pushed the button, so to speak.